Welcome to 7 Days of Rest. First, I want to give a huge gift of gratitude to the co-creators of this regenerative process, created by Shelley Ostroff and Jan Goldstein. I'm Janice Hall, social alchemist and synergistic culture and business ecosystem designer. And my life has really been built around working with and lifting up and connecting change agents, visionaries, paradigm shifters, and evolutionary leaders. And I love articulating the new narratives to introduce into the world, thrivable worlds and futures. I always had a very deep respect for Indigenous people since I was really young, and have been, chanting rights, their cultures, and they kind of call me a hallway of connection between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, because we have so much to learn from each other in order for us to create the pathways to peace that are so important. And so this is all about oneness dreaming to get us there, which is a co-creative process to remember. So we'll activate our collective memory of consciousness, listening to ancestral codes of life, both human and non-human. And interestingly, with my Irish, French, and German background, I somehow carry a deep and ancient connection to my Aboriginal relatives, and I have yet to completely understand this. So what I'd like to do is point to this Byron Bay, Australia lighthouse, and let it be our beacon, as with great joy, I invite you on a journey with my sister, my Aboriginal origine sister, Lynda Millin Osborne from the Bundjalung Nation of Australia's First People. She's the founder and creative director of Cockatoo Dreaming, a mentoring collective designed to assist others to create lives they love living through song, story, humor, and deep inner experiences, always guided by ancestral wisdom. She'll offer us an insight to learn about her people's dreaming and beliefs about totem animals and the signs we all receive from nature. And she'll take us on a journey through song, story, and a deep meditative experience of what her people call, and my fascination with this word, Didiri, an inner deep listening and quiet, still awareness. And this is meant to help us continue our 7 days of rest pilgrimage into our journey upwards and inwards to our highest self. Lynda, welcome.
So I hope you can hear that. We have a chorus of Kookaburra that is just signaling a welcome to all of you. The Kookaburra in our country signals the sunrise and the sunset, the beginning and the end of our beautiful day. And so the Kookaburra, if you had heard it, it's like a laugh, a cackle. It's quite a, an original sound in the world. Lovely to meet you. Nagalburi is a greeting in the Bundjalung language. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm coming to you from, the Darug people. This land has been taken care of by the Darug people for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. My people being on this continent are the longest living culture in the world. And I wish to acknowledge elders, seen and unseen, elders past, present and emerging, and remind everybody, whether you're from across the oceans or on our divine land, that this always was and always will be. Traditional custodian, original land, originee land, First Nations land. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's my honor. I would love to thank Janice Hall, a new friend and connection, for this opportunity, and also to the creators of 7 Days of Rest. I've been able to take part in quite a few of the videos and live events they've put on since the 1st of January, and I would love to thank them for what they're doing around the world right now. I would like to offer you a song just to begin. It's in the Yorta Yorta language. Unfortunately, I don't know much of my own language, but it is a mission, that I'm undertaking. And it is a beautiful lullaby and just a blessing to you, a grandmother's blessing. And if you've been lucky enough to be loved by a grandmother, I wish you to lean into that. And I welcome you to bring your ancestors forth to this call as I bring mine in and my guides in. I acknowledge all my ancestry. I have Irish and German, and I am a Bundjalung woman from the far north coast of New South Wales. I also have deep connections and ties to the far north of Queensland, a little town called Hopevale. I have an uncle who was a Cockatoo man, Peter Costello, and an auntie, Dulcie Costello, a Kukuyalanji woman from the Daintree rainforest. And I am representing them as well as my grandmother, my mother, who all are First Nations people, my cousins, my sisters, my aunties, my teachers and my elders. And I offer this lullaby to you all on behalf of my family to yours. And I'll use some clapsticks which were gifted to me from far north Queensland, just to keep a beat. Women and men from my culture can play these, whereas the didgeridoo, which some of you have seen and know about, is only really allowed to be played by the males. As a teenager, I would have a little play around, but then my cousin David pulled my ear into a corner and said, "No more of that. No more of that." He said, "I see you even when you don't think I do." So I offer you this beautiful song. And I acknowledge this beautiful bush playground I'm coming from, the Durrag land. And I acknowledge that when I got here, as a blessing, our family totems are the white and the black cockatoo. And this was waiting for me as I came to this spot to be with Janice and the rest of you today. Always a very good sign when I hear a cockatoo squawk or I see a beautiful feather on the ground. Supported, ancestors abound, ancestors have shown up. So I'll just sing you this beautiful lullaby before we get on to more story. Inane kapuana, inane kapuana, hey, ula, ula, yippee-yay, yippee-yay, yippee-yay. Inane kapuana, hey, ula, 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 yippee-yay, yippee-yay, yippee-yay. Goo-wana, 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 shoo! Goo-wana, 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 shoo! I would like to pay my respects to the directions, to the elements, to the tree beings, to our non-human friends, our feathered friends, our four-leggeds, those who crawl, those who slither, those who swim. I would like to pay my deepest respects to our sun and our moon and our sky. I wish to pay our respects to the star beings, the angelic beings, the stone people, all who bless our existence on this planet, and our mother. In my culture, as in many Indigenous cultures around the world, we owe everything to her. We come from her, and we will return to her. As Uncle Phil Lane Jr. told me recently, we have the metal from the supernovas and the stars within our beings. I want you to remember your divinity, where you're from, that you are an elemental being. So spending time in nature, on nature, blessing nature, listening to nature will activate your connection to your ancestry. We are all indigenous from some land, maybe a few lands, but we all are from the earth. We will all return to the earth. And being an original custodian of this country, it is a very powerful journey to walk on this place, this country. I always have to be very careful when I cross country, the country that is not bordered by my traditional lands. Acknowledge country, introduce myself, tell the spirits of those lands why I'm crossing their country. Listening to any feeling, good or bad or anxious, that will guide me whether I stay in a place or whether I move quickly off the place. This is listening to nature, connecting to spirit, something I was taught by my elders. And in that respect, I come to you today very humbly and tell you I can only offer you the tracks and the timelines, the information I've been given, and the permissions I've been given to share my culture, to share what I've been taught with you. I cannot speak of other people's journeys or tracks. I can only come with you with my wisdom and my learnings. We acknowledge country in my culture because country is a very spiritual, activated ancestor. Often our ancestors are in the water or the trees or a totem animal. So when we come to someone's country, there are over 400 nations in Australia. And I welcome you to Google the Indigenous map of Australia, where you will see that our country is divided up into 400 nations, perhaps one continent, but very different people, very different language, very different tribal customs. We all do have the basic premise of law across this country, but they are different depending what nation you're from. So when you acknowledge country, which I invite all of you to do across the world, in the Americas, in Canada, to acknowledge your native owners of those land, custodians of the land, where you live, where you work, find out what country do you stand on? What country was there before colonialism arrived? So it's very important for me as an Aboriginal person, First Nations of this country, to acknowledge what country I visit or I come to you on. And this country here is the Darug country. I live in Gadigal country, which is closer to the Sydney Basin. And we just offer our acknowledgement of the country. We acknowledge our thanks to elders who hold all the wisdom and secrets, who hold us all up. So I welcome you to acknowledge the countries that you're on, the original custodians of the countries you're on. Expand your cultural understanding and practice. And anybody, Indigenous or not, can acknowledge country. So I'm the youngest of 5 children born into a family in the Sydney area. I met my Uncle Peter, who did teach me all about my history and my culture in my 20s. My mother and I spent a lot of time travelling with him. We spent time with him in his hometown of Hopevale, where his wife then adopted my mum as her sister. See, my grandmother was born into a world where a mixed race child wasn't treated very well. 1908, my Bundjalung great-grandfather bore a child, my grandmother, and she was quickly removed from her community. So my connection to that community was severed, physically, but never spiritually. I spent 25 years traveling the world with my Uncle Peter Costello, a king, the greatest elder who was a man of peace and reconciliation. And he is now my family, as his family are now mine. I acknowledge my cousins, the Costellos, my auntie Rhonda Costello in Brisbane, and all the Costello connections up the east coast of Australia, and for their blessing of me, for their blessing of the creation of Cockatoo Dreaming, which came out of my love and respect for Uncle Peter and his mission and my Indigenous family. Uncle Peter travelled the world. I travelled with him to Amsterdam and Holland, London, Hawaii, and all up and down the east coast of Australia, as he was invited to talk to people about his experience with the stolen generation. And his message was of forgiveness, of love, of peace and unity, and the importance of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people to work together. His message came from the metaphor of a rainforest. So in the rainforest, it's a beautiful, dense ecosystem where there is a big canopy that covers a lot of the light, where some trees need to grow big and some need to be little, some need to lean, some need to climb, some need to hold the roots, some trees need to separate so just enough light can hit the ground, the rainforest floor, for life to continue. And he always taught about the need for us all to be like the rainforest trees and beings and animals and plants, where we lean on each other, where we lean in on each other and we be lent on. We support one another. So Cockatoo Dreaming came out of a beautiful lifetime with him, of a beautiful gift of me being present in his passing, of me taking his legacy to continue to spread the word of unity, of love, of forgiveness throughout the world, and to share what I know of my culture, which is a very powerful, strong, spiritual, connected culture, particularly with nature. Cockatoo Dreaming, I hold beautiful gatherings for women in women's circles in Sydney. I mentor people one-on-one. I hold education sessions with corporates. I storytell, I present, and I offer wisdom and guidance online when I get the opportunity. So thank you for your time today. I'd just like to take you into a little information about our totems and the signs in nature and Didiri, the deep, deep listening of the deep. Wherever I go, wherever I am, whoever I'm with, I am conscious and I am paying attention to all the signs, to the wind that brushes up against my cheek where I feel the ancestors are present, to a butterfly that flies past, to a cockatoo squawk, to the clouds that tell me to take rest and shelter, to the rains that remind me to cleanse and refresh. Didiri is listening beyond this level of existence, looking through the many layers to find a deep, deep connection to yourself, to Mother, to the signs for direction. When we go in deep, we pay attention to nature. We call in our ancestors to show up. I can guarantee you, you will be helped along to make the right choice, that your ancestors will show up. And as I say that, and as I come to you from this beautiful bush playground, a beautiful wind just arrives to reinforce to me of the truth that I speak to you. Cockatoo Dreaming, my business, if you would love to know more, please go and check my website out, cockatoodreaming.com.au. My logo is the black and the white cockatoo feather, and from it spring these birds of freedom. And my Uncle Peter's family, his cockatoo, his totem is the white cockatoo. And my Auntie Dulcie and my mom's totem is the black cockatoo. We use totems like other religions would use sacred symbols. So when we hear or see a cockatoo, we instantly connect with our ancestors. My Uncle Peter told me before he passed that he would always check on me. He would always be protecting me. He would always be coming to guide me, and so he does. Like today with the cockatoo feather that I found. And I promise you that every single time I see him and every single time I find a feather, I am in awe and celebration, and even talking to you about that, I get covered in chills. The magic around us still excites me. And I said to a loved one this morning, I hope I never lose my awe, because there is so much magic, people, if we just quiet and sit still in nature and start to notice and connect deeply and pray for signs and pray and quiet that monkey mind that takes us to hell and back. That is not what you connect with. Connect with your inner spirit, the spirit that runs this whole system, the spirit that is eternally connected with our ancestors. I've been shown, my mom and my dad, bless them both, they are both in spirit. I have a lot of people on the other side that I love. It hasn't always been an easy road in losing so many of loved ones, best friends, a nephew, mentors, aunties, uncles. Sadly, the life expectancy for my family is quite low in this country. We're lucky to get our elders over 65. All of my mum's family did pass before that. My mum was 66. Just taking a moment to remember them. And I would call myself the ancestor bridge. So if I can awaken you, wherever you are, across this divine land, across the oceans, I send you my love, and I send you a message from your ancestors to pray to them and let them into your life. To light a candle before their photo, create a little altar, because you and I are the legacy. We are the living light of their life. We are their legacy. We shine for them in this life, all their sacrifices, all their burdens, all their wins, all their losses, all the traumas. They show up for us. But what are we meant to do with that? Well, my learning and my mission is to teach of love and forgiveness, to teach of walking forward and doing your work out of the traumatic past that ancestors have had. I have been able to, with a lot of work, forgive unforgivable things, to love unconditionally, to continue to show up in every part of my life with love, with kindness. And believe me, if I wanted to, I could be bitter and twisted and angry and feel ripped off. Anger is a good fire starter. It's an activator. But I encourage you to release it, because anger is like a fire forest that just burns everything down. Anger can activate us. Injustice can activate me. However, if I go on the anger path, who's going to follow me? Who's going to listen to me? I'm just going to continue the devastation of where I've come from. So drop your anger. Drop your hatred. Drop, oh, he did me wrong songs. We are the co-creators of this life. You came here for this. And like Janice said, there's no one else coming. We are the Luke Skywalkers of the world. We are the light keepers. If you're watching this, you've been called by Spirit to listen to this. I was given a prophetic dream just after New Year. And in my closing, that's what I offer you. And if you need anything, you send me a message on my Instagram page at Cockatoo Dreaming, and I will show up for you. You need anything, you reach out. And I ask you, could you possibly be that person for me on the other side of the world in your communities? Can you be that person? Can you be that beacon of light and love and get some help and do the work? Listen to the podcast. Educate yourself. I'm just calling you all because our world needs us. Mother Nature, she needs to be taken care of. And wherever you are, we are all being called to co-create, because my light is brighter with all of your lights behind it and with it and together with it. So I'll just share with you the last little piece of my offering to you all. And I just am drawn to my two sons. If they ever watch this, I love you beyond. And I hope I've been a beautiful example to you. I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I'm a single mum. And they are the lights in my life. And I've certainly tried to be the best mum I could be, and I know that there's definitely things I failed them in. But I'm going to love that part of myself too. I'm going to accept that vulnerability and the darkness within me too. Because if I can't accept it in me, how can I accept it in you? If I won't heal it in myself, how can I try and heal it in the world? But I do. I try my best. I get up every day and try my best and be the best mum I could be. So to all the mums and all the dads, keep shining your lights. All the aunties and the grandmothers, let's shine a light for our kids. It's been a tough couple of years. We didn't grow up in such times. You know, it's almost warlike. So my sons, Riley and Jesse, I love you. And I do this to create a better world for you and my grandkids, which I hope I get. So just finishing on a beautiful lighthouse dream I had. Some of my dreams can at times be quite dark and scary. Having the visionary abilities that I have, it's rough sometimes. We've had a dark couple of years. So Spirit came in very strongly to show me that we aren't out of the woods yet, and we all know that. That there are going to be some battles and some tougher times coming. But in the end, I saw being built, and I saw on top of all of this drama a lighthouse, a very big, strong, foundationed lighthouse. And I was given the feeling of a nirvana, of a beautiful peace around the world, of that we will be the change. We can light this place up. We can and need to be the lighthouses in our homes, in our communities, in our workplaces, in our states, in our countries, and in our world. We need to be powered by love and to shine light wherever it's needed. Paying forward whatever you can, offering someone a lift, opening a door, giving a smile. The smallest tiny acts of light is where I can ask you to begin, and then greater and greater ones. As I too have stepped in with a beautiful group of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people to form a group called Wajam Warriors of Peace. We've been sent out to remote communities to shine a light, show up with Christmas gifts and essentials and say, you are not alone, we see you, we care. There's all levels of being a lighthouse, and I intend to be the greatest, biggest one, like my favourite point in the whole wide world, which is the Byron Bay Lighthouse, which is on my country, the Bundjalung country of New South Wales, Australia. Be a lighthouse, brothers and sisters, aunties and uncles, grandmothers and grandfathers. That's my call to you from this ancient land, with all of my love and blessings, with my heart overflowing for the call to humanity to keep rising. But start with you. Start with you. And from you, that light and that growth can begin. In deep reverence to all of you and for this opportunity, for your ears and your attentions and your open hearts, I thank you. I thank my family and my friends and all of those who support me, my mentors, and Mother and all of her creation.
Thank you, thank you. And as the inimitable spiritual leader, Thich Nhat Hanh says, it's probably the next Buddha will not be an individual. The next Buddha may take the form of community. And that is us. We are collectively the next Buddha. So I invite you to take Sister Lynda's advice and tune into your ancestors. They live in the sky. They live in the trees. They live in the dust that surrounds us. They swirl around us. They lived and breathed and died for us. They left us a legacy to continue, not to take their grief with us, but to honor whatever pain and grief they did incur, and which is energy, just energy, and take that grief and pain and light it up, turn it into light, and power the world with it. And so with that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Lynda, and all of you who had the love and patience to sit with us in this beautiful sharing. And we wish you a magical journey and miracles when you least expect them in 2022.
Bye, everyone. Blessings. Lots of love.